This is the FinesseMedia Podcast, Season 3.
Welcome back. Another episode of FinesseMedia Podcast, Season 3. And as I mentioned to you right before the break, we got a great guest on, somebody that's finessing the game once again. My frat brother, all the way from New York. But we're going to talk about so much more. And I got my wine, too. So welcome to the podcast for the first time. My frat brother, the CEO, the founder of the Wine and Melanin Company, baby. Make some noise for Gamal Gittens. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
I appreciate it, brother.
Man, definitely, sir. It's good to have you on to talk about, wine and melon. Definitely, as I mentioned, I got some good wine. So I got some questions about the wine. But before doing that, again, welcome, brother, to the podcast. And let our listeners know, who are you, where you come from, and, about your background before we jump into the wine and melon.
Just to keep it brief. So I'm Gamal Gittens. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. That's where I'm originally from. After New York, I went to Florida for a little bit. Went to USF, that's University of South Florida. After that, I joined the Army, and then the rest was history. Then I became pretty much a wine addict and decided to incorporate that with entrepreneurship and that's where I'm at right now. Yeah. So this is where, so I'm talking to you right now.
That's what's up, man. And forgive me for not saying it at the top of the episode, man. An Army vet as well. So thank you for your service as well, my brother.
I appreciate it.
So definitely there. So want to talk about wine and melon. So got some good wine. Are you even a wine drinker? Because that's to be asked. A lot of times you'll think that people who distribute certain things and, market certain things, that they actually involve themselves in it, but you just may be a great business savvy person. So how did you start this company, Wine and Melon? Tell our listeners about it. Tell me about it.
Okay. So, to answer the question, yes, I am a wine drinker. Right now, I'm not drinking wines during the week. And I'm still doing some training right now. So just try to be aware right now. So,
but you do drink the wine. You do drink.
Of course. Of course. I drink. I drink my own product. I don't deviate from it. Sometimes I do, but so the whole wine and melon, it started as a group. So I PCS, which means I went to another duty station for my job, which as the active duty officer, I went into Washington State, and then I was like, okay, there's a need for an actual cohesion social group of melanated people that just drank wine and went to certain locations, wineries, bars, and pretty much talked about a lot of topics, social issues. And that's what I wanted to bring. And once that was created, roughly around 2017, 2018, I just pretty much decided that, hey, why can't I just, we put in so much money into these bars, these wines, these wineries, and I don't even know if they even have our best interest. Mm-hmm. So that's when I started to continue to implement the Wine and Melanin brand and created the actual label, created the wine, and
And I understand that you kind of started this with the social group, because when you just talked about not necessarily having our melon involved in wine, you just kind of started some conscious focus group. I understand, and some formulating of people who just enjoyed wine before you really launched the brand or company.
Yeah, that's what it was. I wasn't even thinking about starting my own wine at all. It was just more just everybody just getting together because people weren't doing much, like especially in Washington where it just rains all the time. It's real gloomy. So a lot of people just stayed home and just drank wine. So I'm like, hey, let's link up. Let's all share some wine together and talk about some things, socialize, share, network, and yeah.
So I want to talk about some things. I want to jump into it. And I'm drinking some red wine. I actually prefer like a Merlot. A dark wine. So I'm drinking some Miomi. Not sure if you can see that.
I see it.
Pretty decent brand. What's your thoughts about red wine or kind of the best preferred wine for you?
I like all wines, but red is my top choice as far as wines period. So my number one, if you want to dwell into actual wines, like the different types of wines, red wines, it would be Pinot Noir, Cabernet, Yeah, and I always love a red blend. So those are my top 3 choices.
Yeah, the red blend I definitely like because it's have a bolder taste to it. I'm a fan of the Yellowtail brand.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of that. But your brand, let's get back to it because that's more
Okay.
important. That's why we talking. That's why we got you here, man. Wine and melon.
Okay.
That's what we talking about for the next,
Yeah.
minutes in this episode. So wine and melon. You started this company 2017. What has been, I think, the biggest challenge for you? And I think, I don't know, what has been your biggest challenge in kind of starting this? Because I actually don't know anybody, and it's a pleasure talking with you, that has the experience, or even has started a company. So what has been your experience, most difficult experience about starting this journey?
Yeah, just finding some people you trust, being by yourself, like as far as doing like all the legwork, because that's what you're going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things that people have to understand, especially with business in general, is delayed gratification. So expect that first 2, probably 3 years to not get to where you would like it to be. So what happens, a lot of, especially Black businesses, they get discouraged, and sometimes they'll not succeed after a certain amount of time because of that delayed gratification. Sometimes we want that success right now, whatever we want. Like, hey, I'm not getting the profit. You just got to do it. You got to enjoy what you do, and then things will come into play. That's one of the things I've learned as far as doing the whole entrepreneurship business and the challenges with it. And and it's doing people you trust, and especially people who are introvert. I'm an introvert person. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a person to come and talk to somebody like, hey, you want to drink my wine? No, that's why I always I do my strengths. I try to utilize my strengths, which is try to provide the best product and have a quality and make sure the customer service is right. And the rest will speak for itself. And by doing that and sticking true to that principles of yourself and your ethics, you'll have people gravitating towards you that's going to provide that extrovertness and that the stuff that you're lacking.
Yeah. And that's right. So when you say that you have people around you, so who is on your team building this brand for you? Is it, you doing this alone, or do you have a team doing it with you?
I have a team. I have a couple of people that help me. Most of them are from Phi Beta Sigma.
Okay.
I have most of that's pretty much what one of the benefits actually when
there you go.
Shout
out to the blue. I'm wearing my blue fire.
Yeah, I see.
I got to dress for my guests. I try to dress for my guests for the occasion.
Yeah.
So shout out to the boys in blue. And so doing this, and I know you're self-taught, in a lot of ways, getting information from the boys in Washington, your folks out in California, but also, who are some people? Because I don't know, and so I come to you for all information. Who is these people, outside of you that you look to, to start this? Are there any people in the business that you kind of look to get some kind of guidance and mentorship from?
Not really. I did when I did the Wine and Melanin social group. When we spoke to a lot of these vineyards and these winemakers, I spoke to a couple of them just to get an insight of it all. But most of the time, I did a lot of stuff, went through the search engine, and that's why I kind of self-taught myself and tried to how to maneuver around the whole business, that wine business, because it was a bus. That's what made it a bumpy road. Now, if you did have somebody that can actually teach you the ropes, that would be pretty great. So that would be great. Yeah.
And I'm yet to kind of get myself out there to where is it? And it's in California. So you tell me that wine vineyard that I want to get out there to. Can't even think of the name of it. I know a lot of people travel out to San Francisco to go to these wine tours. But nonetheless, man, you talked about Phi Beta Sigma and being a part of Phi Beta Sigma. So we had a couple brothers on before, man. So just kind of want to dive into it and let our listeners know about your experience being a member of Phi Beta Sigma. When did you start the journey of Phi Beta Sigma? Where did you join? Was that the University of Florida?
No, I pledged in City College in New York in 2006. In 2006, spring 2006. So City College of New York, that's in Harlem, Alpha Delta chapter.
Okay.
And after that, that's when Florida, and that's why I went into USF and did my frat stuff over there as well. So, and then I was always involved in Sigma, from doing all the elective boards and everything like that. I actually won a charter member over there in Tacoma. Sigma.
That's what's up. Go on, man. You definitely, to finessing the game, finessing the frat, and making moves and keeping things afloat. So my next question is being, a wine, is it connoisseur or entrepreneur, definitely in the wine industry. What has helped or being in Phi Beta Sigma, what has helped your personal development? Growing into that business? Has that kind of mirrored each other? Have you kind of used some of your skills and experiences from Phi Beta Sigma into growing your business, wine and Melanin?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because those are actually those were my first supporters, was the Blue, Zetas, Sigmas. So those are the ones that actually was like, okay, because that's what family is, that's what we're for, and just like if you have your sister or your brother and they see you're doing something, like, hey, they're, encouraging, hey, can I help you? Hey, I do media. Hey, I'm business savvy. So certain things, I'm a good marketing person.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll find all these different talents within that blue and white community. And it's, you just got to do it. You just got to do it. And the blue is going to gravitate. The blue is going to gravitate as long as you're putting out the right thing and not making it look, janky. You can definitely, make something happen.
Yeah, definitely. We talk about Greeks probably each and every episode, just because the people that's out there doing it and making those footprints really are a lot of folks that's from the Divine Nine. So just so happenstance, and then we also talk about HBC using that experience for a lot of our Greeks. That's a different experience. So I must say that being a member of Phi Beta Sigma myself, I played spring 2007 at the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. So for those my listeners know this, but just for you as my guest, just to get that insight. So that experience has always been kind of tangible, as I always said, kind of echo what you're saying, like the brothers that kind of, that mold you to kind of help you build the business savvy, to even build a lot of development and coaching too in almost any industry, because it's a general really practice. Being in a fraternity on campus, you learn to be a student, you learn to multitask, you learn to present, you learn to be a leader, you learn to follow, you learn a lot about community service and having things to not be about you and other people. So inclusive we rather than exclusive we, Gamal, that's some Sigma knowledge for.
And just a caveat with as far as us being a community service oriented organization, that's the things that we were doing in the Wine and Melanin group, was actually not just drinking wine. We actually went to Buffalo Soldiers Museum. We volunteered for that. We volunteered for the MLK Museum, and we did MLK marches. We actually did stuff for the community too, road cleanups and stuff. So I incorporated the stuff that I was doing in Sigma and involved it with Wine and Melanin. So that's one of the things, just to caveat what you were saying.
No, absolutely. And with the wine and Melanin, because people want to get their hands on it, I got to get myself a bottle. How can folks get it? Is it local in stores or is it online, only?
Yeah, I have a step program. So right now it's all online sales. So if they go to wineandmelanin.com, they can actually order a bottle. And actually I put a promo code Melanin20, you get 20% off. I put that out there. And that's one of the first steps. So after that, once, I get that enough, I get bigger, and, cause it's still growing, it's still a smaller business. Then I'll get to more of a actual fixed location and do it from there, go from there.
Yeah. And talk to me about that process about making wine, because I just know it as getting it off the shelf, taking it to the self checkout, getting it home and popping it open. But for the people that's doing it like you, I have no idea about this. So, tell our listeners about that process. And I'm sure it's a great extension of it, but in short, kind of how does that process work? How do you make wine?
Okay, so it's really not as hard as people think. It's just when you see the equipment that you you see, it's all like you see a whole bunch of equipment, but it really is just a fermenting process. You put the grapes. You got to get the right grapes. It's all about the grapes, the soil. Make sure the soil is enriched, and it breeds it grows that nice grape. And then once you get the grape, then you crush it. You try to you put some certain chemicals in it, ferment it, and then it goes through a process, and then you'll get wine. It's not really. That's pretty much like a simplistic
version of
way of doing it. Yeah, because you can make drinks out of anything. That's why you could get some bread and some raisins and make some vodka,
wow.
or some or some moonshine or something like that.
Yeah,
it's just the process on it.
No, that's pretty cool and incredible, because I had a buddy who made beer, and he had it in closets in dark spaces for months, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? When can we make it or try this beer? And when he did, have me to try it, it was really good. Shout out to Lawrence down there in Florida too. Actually, he went to Florida, University of Florida. But
okay.
But what's really cool about drinking wine, I always thought, is that kind of people had this stereotype about certain types of wines, kind of, higher than others. So what's kind of that, I guess the myth about wines that you can maybe that you can break. So I'm sure you heard about it, but there's maybe one I'll throw out here that, if it's not hot and if it's not placed in a certain glass, then you're not getting the full value of the wine.
Mm-hmm. Well, you always want to keep especially red wines. Red wines roughly in a room temperature. That's always good. A little bit colder for the white wines. You might want to. I always refrigerate those. A lot of people, they talk about like hangovers and stuff, and this is what goes around with just alcohol. Period. Hydrate yourself. If you hydrate yourself, you won't get as much hangover as possible. And also the quality of what you're getting. So don't go and get the bottom shelf of any type of alcohol, and you'll be fine. But but it really boils down to the actual hydration, because a lot of people don't drink water. They'll just drink straight wine and then just don't drink water. Then they have a headache. That's one of the misconceptions that I see. And then you'll have, because it's different types of wines, and you'll see and different types of prices. So there's bottles, thousands of dollars.
Because I can't make my mind up. I go into a store, dude, and it's wine everywhere, and I'm like, you'll be living, to your last day before you can try all this wine, dude. And I feel like you really can just bring a bottle of wine to the party and no one would judge you and say like, hey, you brought Meiomi to the party, or you brought, Stella Rosa to the party. Folks wouldn't care. My wife loved wine. She had a couple of questions she wanted me to ask you about. Stella Rosa, that's kind of one of her favorite wines. And that doesn't really taste like a wine. It tastes like, I'm from Chicago, so we're going to say it, pop. It tastes like pop, but soda, cold drink, wherever you're from. But it tastes like that for me, and it's something that she enjoys, and it's really light and bubbly. So what is that type of wine? Like, educate me on that, because that doesn't taste like a Pinot Noir. It's not like a Cabernet. What is that?
It's pretty much what you just said. It's carbonated. It's a carbonated wine beverage. With, like, I'm not a fan of like wines that's a little bit too sweet. Like, or has a little high sugar content, because sometimes I always because with me, when I drink wine, I like to worry about, also the after effects of it. So things in like high sugar content, I kind of avoid anything that's because there's a lot of wines out there that's really sweet. So that's one of the brands that I look into when I actually look for wine. I look for what kind of wine is it? Is it a dry? Because I'm mostly a dry red. Dry reds is not as much calories, as much sugar compared to the other wines that's kind of sweet. So like Stella Rose, you'll find a couple of those.
The Moscato is sweet, but that's not in the line of Stella Rosa, but it is a sweeter wine, the Moscato.
Yeah, You'll find Moscato, because I have a Moscato, but it's not D'Asti. That's a version of Moscato that people like to drink. That's another thing that's more of a carbonated. It's a little bit has that sweetness to it. So it all depends. Because I started off with sweet wines. That was my thing, my go-to, because I didn't really trust the other wines. I didn't want to dwell into it. I thought it was just nasty until I started to get an actual taste for it. Because once you develop that taste for wine, then you start to appreciate all the different types of wines. So
I started off with a Sutter Homes Moscato on a Saturday night, maybe 10 years ago in Chicago for $4.99. But now I can't even stomach it, dude, because it's not quality wine. It's not quality wine. But that's a good segue about what you mentioned and how you started and what you prefer. Because now I want to know, and I'm sure our listeners want to know, what is on your menu. So what type of wines are available on your website? Because I don't want to be teased about what's coming. I want to ask that next. But what's on your website for us to purchase, man? And tell us about those. Tell us about that lineup.
Okay, so I started off with the red blend. So that's the red blend, and that's still out of stock. I'm gonna come. Everybody's keep asking me about the red blend. It's coming out soon. So for right now, we have the Nubian, which is the Pinot Noir. We also have the Passion. Passion, that's the exclusive, like it's pretty much a port, but you can't say port legally. So it's more of the sweet, it's a dessert wine. I also have a Moscato, I have a Chardonnay, and that's about it right now.
I mean, but go ahead.
No, that was it. Yeah.
No, I mean, but that's a buffet, right? So you kind of got everything. I didn't hear nothing I do like, or nothing I do like. I heard everything I like. I didn't hear nothing I didn't like. Everything that's there. So you got the Chardonnay, you got the red wine, you got a Moscato, and these things are available to be purchased on your website. So how fast can we get it? If we, place an order, are people getting it? Is it kind of made to order, or is it ready to ship?
It depends on your location. So all of it is ground, because I hope people know that shipping wine is a tedious process. It's because you're shipping alcohol. You have to get a lot of permits and a lot of things, and most of it goes through ground. Doesn't really go through air, because the shipping fees are outrageous. So it should get to anybody once I get the order, it's between roughly from 5 to 7, 8 days, roughly, from when the time the order is placed.
No, that's a normal and standard time. And then of course, we're in COVID, so some things aren't shipping for, weeks.
Yeah.
So, that time around in this pandemic is really good. And go ahead.
Yeah. No, I always try to, and that's the thing too. And then I always try to be prompt, because I know I'm not Amazon. I Amazon Prime. I would like to be, but I know as soon as people push the order, I try to do the best customer service possible. I try to just load the box up with a whole bunch of stuff, little like wine pourers, corkscrews, and this makes it look real presentable, because I always like to bring the best quality product especially for my people too, especially.
And what I like about wine is that you can really do a lot of things with it. You can kind of play with different foods with it. I used to do a situation, Fred, back in Chicago called Wine and Wings. And we used to bring out different types of wings and then pair it with different types of wines. And so I'm not a wine connoisseur. Well, maybe at that time, getting into wine and bringing out different types of wines with different types of wings. I thought that was a pretty cool idea, but not really being a wine connoisseur. What I would like to ask you is that, why are you doing so many different things as being an entrepreneur, sir, and being a veteran of the United States Army? You have definitely moved around the world and seen different things, and you continue to finesse the game. But each and every week on our episode on Finesse Media Podcast, I ask my guests, who's finessing the game for you? So who's that person that you not necessarily emulate a model after, but somebody that you say, yes, that person is finessing the game, or frankly, a brand itself, because you as a brand ambassador and the person of your company, I open that option as well. Who's finessing the game for you?
I don't know. He doesn't probably know me, but I know him. He's pretty big over there in Oregon, and his name is Abbey Creek Wineries. He's also a black owned. He actually has a legit winery, and he plays a bunch of music over there too. That's one of the things that I see that I'm like, I respect, and he's like really finessing the game. The McBride sisters, they're pretty good too. You can check them out because they're obviously they're really big too. They have that Black Girl Magic wine. That's pretty good. Yeah,
I've heard about that.
Yeah. They're on it. They're on it. So
yeah. Well, those are people that's finessing the game for you, Gamal Gittens.
This has been another edition of the FinesseMedia Podcast. Join us again next week for the latest news from HBCU.
I had a
special guest
that was called Nightjar, and I looked around the world for it, and it was only able to be found in Cooper's Hawk back in Illinois. And it's really like a red wine, but infused with cognac. So I had looked in this big place now here in Texas, a place called Total Wine. They got hundreds, maybe thousands really, of different types of wine. And I asked them, hey, do you even got anything that has that type of kind of ingredients? Because this, and I come to know it was a dessert wine, and to me, it just felt like a wine or a bottle of yak that you can kind of have on a Saturday night. But this is a dessert wine, they said, but it's red blended with cognac infused, but they didn't have it, or they do not have it anywhere in this store that I was looking at. So have you heard of something like that? And also, if my follow-up can be, how is that even made? Because the guy told me, well, just get some wine and get some Hennessy. I'm like, no, it wouldn't taste the same. So any background on that type of, that type of wine?
I don't know about the whole cognac infused wine. The stuff that I do know is sometimes they put wines and they have it resting, as you could say, in barrels, like bourbon barrels, pretty much what they make, like bourbon, whiskey barrels. They have a lot of those wines that gets infused with that type of flavor. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's in those type of barrels. I don't know about that. I haven't even heard about a cognac infused wine.
Oh, damn it! We need to get it on Wine and Melon. We need to get it on.
We do.
We need to get it on Wine and Melon because it's something
you inspired me. Now you got my mind working now,
dude. It's very innovative. I was honestly just saying to the guy in the store here, like, I don't care who makes it. I'm not even like searching for that particular brand. Just give me something that got this ingredient, that ingredient. And but he's like, we don't even have nothing like that. I never heard of it. I'm like, this place has like 5,000 bottles of wine and not one in it like it. But get it on it. But
I'm thinking about it.
What you do have on there, we definitely want to support. We want to let our listeners know how to get it, how to follow you and keep up with everything that you got going. Let us know.
Okay. So you can always go to the website wineandmelanin.com. That's just that's how I'm saying it right now. It's spelled out. And you can also go to at winemelanin for my IG. Those are the two places that you can have any questions or any comments or anything like that. You can also email me at info@wineandmelanin.com. That's another way you can reach me. And I do want to add a lot of people that's entrepreneurs and business savvy people. Just do it, okay? Don't worry about the unknown and so much. Just whatever you have the mind for, just do it, okay? I like wine. I was like, okay, let me see what I can do, and I just did it. Like that, and that was it. Like the first case I had, I worked with a winery, and that whole case wasn't really good. Like I took a setback from that, and then I just improved on it. I had like a horrible label on top like around it that was pretty cheesy, but I felt excited. But then it wasn't responsive to the people. Those are stuff that I learned from doing that. So you just got to do it. You just got to and you'll learn. And by doing it and putting yourself right into the fire, you'll know how the business goes once you do it. Because they'll explain like, hey, do you got this? You got this permit? Like, oh no, and then you go research and get a permit, or you research these steps. So these are the type of things that, like, don't worry about it. Everything will come into play. Just do it. That's what.
That's it. Those are words from Gamal Gittens, man, my friend, brother, finessing the game. And that's, again, good words. Just jump. Just do it. Just do it. And that's the way to wrap it up, man. Just do it. And again, my brother, thank you so much for joining, taking the time. You got to come back, because as you continue to grow and finesse the game, I want to continue to grow and support with you, you know, so come back and, you know, let us know if you're debuting something, you know, and definitely if you're ever in Dallas, Texas doing a pop-up and you got some wine, you know.
Listen, almost definitely. Houston, Dallas, Texas, period. They're one of my top customers. Atlanta's one of my top customers. And those are the two places that I'm going to be thinking about having the wine and melanin store. So you keep it, so keep in touch.
Man, we'll definitely keep in touch, and go mob, like I say.
Go mob, bro.
What you're doing and the education you brought, and that last piece of gem that you brought, you know, to this episode. Thank you, man. And again,
no problem.
Keep what you're doing. And what you heard, y'all, is another great finesse on another episode of Finesse Media Podcast. And we'll see you next week with something brand new. Frank, keep it easy, man.
Go mob, Frank.
Go mob.
This has been another edition of the Finesse Media Podcast. Join us again next week for the latest news from HBCUs. Special guest